First of all, I'd introduce myself. My name's Phil Shackleton. I'm the head teacher of Albury Academy. We'll hear from a number of staff this evening in the hall. On my right, we've got Mr Dean Brill, who's in charge of our transition from year 6 to 7, Mr Pete Davies, who is our deputy head teacher, and Mrs Sarah Mewis, who's going to be the head of year for year 7 for your children. I'm guessing there are a number of really nervous children in the room tonight. And one or two parents, I would imagine. I'm going to start, as I normally do on event side tonight, with one or two of our students. These were students who were in your position last year, who have had never a whole year at Albury Academy. And I thought it would be important to start with one or two of those students before I give my presentation.
Have loads of different assemblies on loads of different topics like knife crime and any other things that might be negative and stuff to help you.
You have the safeguarding teachers as well, which can help you with any of your problems in school.
My anxiety was through the roof when I came here, and when I was speaking to my head of year, Miss Mewis, she just helped me fit right in and sent me to the friends that might help me the most, and they just helped so much. The teachers are lovely.
My worries were I was kind of bit nervous, but at the same time I was kind of excited because some of my siblings go to this school. And mostly I was feeling very nervous, but since I came into transitioning, the teachers helped me a lot and they supported me wherever I went, and whatever I did, they always supported me, but no matter what.
They help you out and they're kind to you, and if you're feeling nervous, they tell you to. It's a bit like a family member, to be honest.
The lessons are always engaged and they're interesting to learn, so you can achieve your grades that you expect to have at the end of the year.
That all of the teachers are nice and kind to you, and you get lots of work done. Sometimes you might get onto the second PowerPoint, and that means you're succeeding.
The best thing is that whenever there's something going on with your friendship or something, you can just ask a teacher and they'll sort it out.
So I would say as well the lessons, because they're quite engaging and fun, and teachers always try and find a way to make your learning better.
The advice I'd give is choose the people you think should stay with you as friends, because and try your best in lessons, and if you don't get anything, speak to the teachers. The teachers will just help you get through anything you're stuck on. Don't just sit there thinking, oh, I don't know what to do, I'm just going to leave it, and when you get to a test think, I should have tried harder. Just speak to a teacher after this and just say, Miss, I need help on this, and they'll help you straight away.
So if you want to get the target grade you want, you need to just keep your head down and make sure you're listening to your teacher. Don't be rude or cheeky, and just make sure you don't do anything that you're not supposed to do.
Don't feel nervous. If you're nervous, go to a teacher or member staff and talk to them about your worries, and they will help you out.
That's the only second time I've seen that since the first presentation. And children have got a way of saying it just the way it is. I think my favourite one was, if you want to hit your target grades, keep your head down, listen to your teachers, don't be cheeky or rude, and you'll be alright. I think that's actually great advice. This evening is about gathering information for yourselves, about meeting people. We understand that this transition from primary school to secondary school can be difficult, it can be nerve-wracking, and it can be challenging. Hopefully tonight is the first part of making that much smoother. I hope already you've had an opportunity to see some of our subject leaders, to talk about the curriculum in Year 7, to talk about some of the lessons that your children will be doing next academic year, to hopefully help settle the nerves of some of your children. This year, we've decided to do 2 transition evenings. We only did 1 last year, and we found that it was just not enough time for parents to get as much information as they can. So as I've said, tonight's evening is about getting that information from from the curriculum leaders, having the opportunity to speak to me if you wish to as the head teacher or any one of my senior team, and also finding out a little bit more information about Mrs Muse, who's the head of year. The evening on the 4th of July, that's going to be focused mainly on Mrs Mewis and your child's form tutor. You'll get to meet your child's form tutor and you'll have some time with them, and they will talk to you a little bit more about school, preparing ready for September. I started the video, my presentation, with students, because students are always at the heart of my vision as the head teacher, and I wanted to give you a little bit of an update in terms of Albury Academy. We've been working really hard this year to improve our outcomes, to improve teaching and learning, trying to get the best deal for the children in our school. I've built some real strong partnerships over this academic year with some local schools. We have been working really closely with a school called Red Hill School, which is an outstanding school in Stourbridge, and we've also been working closely with the Hills High School, which is an outstanding school in Halsey. I see that as a really important part of our development, where we're sharing best practice, members of their staff coming to our school to help deliver lessons and to do CPD with teachers and members of staff. And equally, my staff go to their schools to see their best practice, and that's been a real positive for us this academic year. I also want to keep creating opportunities for children to learn outside of the classroom. I'll talk to you a little bit about this in our open evening. This year we've had a ski trip to America, to New York. A group of students went to Madrid on a football trip. Last weekend we had a number of students doing their Duke of Edinburgh. I think it was Blackwell Court, the walk from, over last weekend. We've done Shakespeare trips, etc. And something really exciting for next year, in July 2020, we're going to take a group of students as part of the World Challenge to Swaziland, which is something that we're really proud of, to give our students that opportunity to be involved. And again, open up their learning beyond the classroom of Albury Academy. Ofsted, we had an Ofsted visit since we've last spoken to you. So in January 2019, they came in to do a monitoring inspection. Our last full inspection was in 2017. During the monitoring visit in January this year, they can only make one of two decisions. Is the school making effective progress to become a good school, or aren't they? I was pleased to say on the day's inspection that the inspector said that our school is making good progress and effective progress to become a good school. There are still areas, and I've said in the open evening, I'm always a very honest head teacher. I expect that from myself, my staff and the children. There are still things we are working on, but that's why I've looked to gain that experience from local outstanding schools to support us. And we've made great strides in making those improvements this academic year. Before I hand over to Mr Davis, really this period of time for me is for you to find out more about Albury Academy as much as you can. Please visit our website. Please look at our newsletter. There are newsletters for every week so far this academic year, and it will give you a feel for all of the things the students do week in, week out. We're also on Twitter, where we publish things that are happening during the day. So again, that gives you again a feel for the things the students are doing. So if you're not following us, or if you haven't visited that website, or your children want to have a look at it, please do so over the next few months. Because again, the more information you can gather about Albury Academy before you come in September, clearly the more relaxed and at ease your children will be. That's it for my part. I'm going to hand over to Mr Davis, who's going to talk to you just for a few minutes, and then Mr Brill. Thank you very much.
Okay, evening all. My name is Pete Davis, Deputy Head Teacher. I've been at the school 16 years. That'll make some of you feel a little bit older than you were before you walked in. 3 years ago, when Mr Shackleton took over as Head Teacher, the first thing that we did as a team was, as a leadership team, as a staff body, with the students, we sat down to look at our vision and our ethos. Because ultimately, what we say we stand for needs to come through in our actions day in, day out. It needs to come through in the way that we talk to young people. It needs to come through in our communication with you as parents. And my role, I oversee the work of all of the year teams. I oversee everything pastoral, so behaviour, attendance, student support, safeguarding, anything that fits into that world. Okay? So it's quite right, really, that our overarching phrase that we use in our school to describe our ethos is that of care. Because as a school, I believe we are incredibly caring. I think any Ofsted report that you read will talk about the strength of our support structures and the support that the kids get here. But breaking that down, that stands for celebrating together, achievement for all, respecting one another and having high expectations to succeed. And for me, they are just common sense strands that should cut through our school like a stick of rock to make sure all of our kids leave here at the end of their time with everything they need to move on to the next step of their life. What I'm going to do is just go through just a couple of slides just to talk you through 3 of those areas. They are the words that I want your children and the young people that are here, that you, to hear day in, day out as part of our communication in school. I want you to hear about high expectations, I want you to hear about respect, and I want you to hear about the importance of achievement, because they are crucial to all of us moving forward together. When you join us in September, one of the things that you will have, and parents, we will ask you to sign this, is called our Learning Partnership Agreement. It's a document that sets out really clearly what expectations you can have of us, what expectations we have of our students, and also how we want to work with you as families. I'm just going to run through those really quickly. I won't read it all to you, so I won't want to patronise you, but I'm just going to pick out the key parts. In terms of our expectations, you can expect us to want the best for your kids. It is simple as that. We will have the highest of standards, and we will make sure that where we put sanctions in place, they are fair and they are consistent. Okay, all of our policies are there for you to see, and you can check them online. But ultimately, what I want you to know is that when we talk about expectations of uniform, and all schools have their own different interpretations, our expectation is one that we expect to be met. Okay? And if it isn't, then we kick in with certain things. And for those people that meet our standards day in, day out, we will obviously celebrate that as often as we possibly can. In terms of respect, you would expect us to deal with you in a fair, respectful way, and I think that's a fair expectation. And you would want to be able to send your children to a school that is safe, one where there is a caring atmosphere, and one where, like the kids were saying in the video at the start, if you've got any issues, you can go to somebody, you know there's a safe place to go, and you can get some support in dealing with that. But ultimately, everything that we do feeds into outcomes, feeds into exam results, be that as you move through the school, but ultimately at the end of year 11. I know I can see some families in here that have got children with us at the moment in year 11 who are obviously working with us. Our job is to make sure that when they walk into any classroom in our school, they can go and learn. Protected from disruptive behaviour. It does happen, but we need to have systems in place to deal with and to manage that. We need to have, and hopefully you've met our curriculum leads, we need to have subject specialists who are providing a curriculum that meets the needs of young people. With the SAPs behind us, thankfully, we will get that information in due course, and we will see all of our students coming in year 7 from different starting points. It's our job to make sure that we meet their needs and allow them to succeed by providing a curriculum that's carefully matched to their needs, but also planning and preparing lessons that not only match their needs, but engage them. Okay, because it's all well and good having a really well-planned lesson, but if it doesn't switch the kids on to their learning, then it's wasting time. And hopefully you've seen the Show My Homework stand, because we value homework very, very much, because of the value that it adds to progress over time. The research is there is that if you get good quality homework and you complete it regularly, your progress far exceeds those that don't. What do we expect of our young people? We want them to work to the best of their ability, we want them to look smart, be proud of our uniform, and make sure they're here regularly, okay, and have excellent attendance. Our target is 98% on an individual basis, but to be here on time. They are life skills. Going back to the uniform, it's a life skill. Try holding down a job if you're not there and you're not there on time regularly enough. In most workplaces, there is a uniform of some sort. It might not be a blazer and a tie, but there is a uniform, be that on a work site, in a bank, you know, wherever. So it's just about preparing kids for routines and getting ready for those life skills. Respect is incredibly important. It isn't just about saying yes sir, no sir, yes miss, no miss, because we want young people to address adults with respect. It's not just about teachers, it's every adult they come into contact with. It's also about all of their peers as well, and being able to work side by side with other people. It's about when they leave their gates and go out into the community, maybe getting their buses to or from school, it's about handling themselves right in that situation as well, and treating members of the public with respect. Okay? There will be times when we might disagree. We have to make many decisions over the course of a day with 1,600 students. Not everybody agrees with every decision, for example, that I make. But what I expect is when our young people get challenged or get told that they've got something wrong, that they accept that. And they accept it with resilience and with positivity. Because it's easy to get one on you and react in the wrong way, but we want people to come back. Okay? We all make mistakes, but it's only fools that make the same mistake more than once. And what we want is people who learn from those mistakes. Okay? And in terms of achievement, it's going into lessons with the right attitude to learning, to absolutely go on and get the best possible grades possible so that everybody reaches their potential. Okay? We want people to be active participants in their education. Not just go and sit in the classroom because they have to, but actually to really get involved in what is going on in and around them to make the best possible progress. Parents, carers, this is where I come to you, because this is, for me, this is the crux of it. We know, research shows, and my 16 years of experience have proven to me time and time again, that where we get the triangle working really well, where we've got students at the top of it, and we've got the school and the parents all working together, that is where our kids enjoy school the most, that's where parents are happiest with the service that they get, and that's where the kids generally make the best levels of progress. Okay? And those are the things that we're all aiming for. So what we ask of you is that you work with us to make sure your children are well behaved when they're here, and that they are here, and that they are here on time. You can see a pattern coming through. Okay? The respect element, I would come back to this one, please. Okay? I'm just going to point the laser at that bottom one. I think the battery's going over the shelf to invest. Okay? Bottom one in the middle column. Go back to the point I made. We may not always agree. You might question some of our rules or some of our decisions. I've got absolutely no issue with that ever. All of our team, all of our senior leaders, all of the heads of years, I expect us to be able to sit down and have a conversation with you where you might say, why have you chosen to do that? Or why have you picked up on this particular thing that maybe my child's not done? And I would expect us to be able to be transparent about it. But what I would also expect at the end of our conversation, where you might tell me you don't necessarily disagree with it, if that's the case, is that we are still united in our approach. So that your children see us together in wanting the best for them. Because ultimately that is what we are all here to do. I've never met a parent yet that doesn't want their kid to get the best possible education, and I've never met anybody in education that doesn't want every child to go on and be the best they can be. Okay? So talk to us, communicate with us, and be part of that journey with us as your children come in September and move through the next 5 years, because that is what will get us there. That collaboration is really important. One of the most important people for you will be your child's head of year in Year 7. So at that point, I'm going to ask Mrs. Lewis to come up and she'll talk to you a little bit about her.
A little bit shorter than everybody else. Good evening, everybody. As you've already heard, we have a clear vision here at Albury Academy as to what we want for your children. And my role here as head of Year 7 is to ensure that the transition goes well. For your children, this will be one of the biggest events in their lives, moving schools from their primary schools where there's a couple of hundred students into a huge environment like this. My role is to ensure that before they arrive, I get to know your child by myself and my team coming out to primary schools to meet you, to speak to their teachers, try and learn about what they need and where they work best. What we'll then be moving on to do is the transition days. The transition days is your child's chance to come and have a look and get a real feel and settle those nerves that they have. I'm a parent myself and I know just how difficult this transition can be for students and for parents. It's part of the growing up. What we're going to do over those 2 days is allow your child to get a feel for the school, and then you'll be back to see us on the 4th of July. On that 4th of July, you've been given a pack of information this evening. What I would ask you to do is to have a good read through it between now and then, and I'd also ask you to complete the forms that are within that pack. So it's really important that we have that information back on the data collection form, which gives us the basic information, and up-to-date contact details, which is imperative for us to keep the lines of communication open. Free school meals, there's the information within there also, which is linked to the uniform allowance form, and the biometrics form sounds a little bit scientific, but what that does is it gives us the authority to take a fingerprint image of your child's finger so that they can be accessing our lunches here and putting money onto their account. There's also a golden letter in there as well, which allows you as a parent to write a little note to your child that we will give them in the first couple of weeks at school. It's a really nice thing, and it often brings a big smile to the young person's face during those first couple of weeks. Can I also encourage you, some of you will be travelling some of the young people will be travelling on the bus. Can I encourage you to look at the bus information, the uniform guidance, which I'll go through in more detail on the 4th of July, and attendance information and the e-learning platforms. What I'm going to do now, though, to talk more about the transition process, is to hand over to our transition lead, Mr. Bruttle.
I'm a little bit taller than this, as you can say. I've got one of the best jobs in the school, I'll be completely honest with you. I've been here for 10 years and I've done transition now for the last 3 or 4. And I get to plan the activities that the students do on their transition days, and I get to set up all these different evenings and all these the letters and everything that you get out, which is really crucial, I think, to your child starting at Albury Academy. One of the things I did over in February, before we got the list of the new Year 7 starting with us, is I asked the current Year 7s what they thought of their transition last year. I asked them what they thought went well, I asked them what they thought we could improve on, and I also asked the parents exactly the same questions. So it's all well and good me sat there in the office typing away, planning everything, but actually I need to be listening to what the students themselves are saying and also the parents. So these are 2 examples of our transition days from last year, where all of the students in Year 7 now came up for the 2 days, and they spent a lot of time walking around the site. A majority of the time was spent in the hall doing different activities, enterprise tasks, raising aspirations tasks and different things. The parents said that was absolutely fantastic. The students themselves said it's brilliant, however, it doesn't really showcase what your school is like, so it doesn't prepare us ready for September, so what an actual lesson is going to look like. So one of the first things I did when I was planning this year's transition is to look at that feedback. I've changed it massively compared to last year. I've got away with the days where the majority of the students spend time in the hall, but I've put in various different activities that resemble a full school day for a student. I expect all students to start the school day with an assembly, and they will do that once a week through Year 7. I think it's really important that all the students get to stand and sit together as a year group, because they're all working towards the same goal, they're all working towards the same aspects of the end of their schooling, and they all need to learn how to work together. So I think it's really important on those transition days that the students get to spend time as a group of people, and so we will lead the assemblies on both mornings. I also want them to do a tour of the school. It is a massive school, and you've only seen a small section as you walk up to the library and into the canteen. And we will open the school up more for you on the night of the 4th of July, so that you as parents get to see it a little bit more. But we also give the students a tour of the school. It's scary when you walk around a big school. You're used to being in one classroom for the whole time when you're at primary school, and everything's so small, and you come here and everything is so big. And I always get students coming up to me going, am I going to be late? Am I going to get in trouble? Am I going to be late to lessons? Different things. So the 2 transition days are really, really important to allow the students to find their feet, to find their way around the school. We will have dedicated break time, so they get to see what it's like at break time. And the same for lessons. I want them to see what lessons are actually like at Albury Academy, so it's nothing to shock when they come up in September. We'll also offer them free lunches, so we through Interserve, because Interserve run our building as part of the BSF project, they give us free food for 10 days for each Year 7 student that comes up. So 2 of those 3 days of food will be on the 2 transition days, so they'll be given free food. It's really important that actually they all get to sit together to review the day, to see how different things have happened, what their thoughts are. Staff will be on hand to have conversations with them during their dedicated lunch break. Don't be scared by the next line, and people look at that and go, they've just done SATs. You are so cruel making them do more baseline tests. We probably are, and I apologise for that, but actually I want to be making sure that when I pass all the information onto the curriculum leads, that they've got the right information. I don't want to have to reband people or get the team to reband people or reset people in September, in September, October time. That would be really unfair. So we need to get it right now. So we just want to do the baseline testing to reaffirm what the SATs results have said, to make sure that actually they are working towards the same as what the SATs have said. We also want students to spend time as a form group. So today you've had a letter on the way in. It tells you what form group your child is going to be in September. Subject to change slightly, might not, but more than likely, 99% of the time, it will be that form group that you've got on that letter. I want those days, transition days, where your students work, your children even, work as a team. So I want them to meet their form, to be with their form for the whole 2 days, because they're going to be with them for the next 5 years. And I think building that relationship up with the form tutors, as Mrs. Mewson said, is really, really important. Again, going back to the review, we look at primary versus secondary. So what are the differences between primary school and secondary school? I want you to walk away today with knowing and thinking of some things that you might not have even thought about. So we look at organisation, for instance. At primary school, you pack your child's bag, you get their PE kit ready, it hangs on the hook in the corridor, you then have all their books and they put them in the desk or they put them in the drawer and then they forget about them. At secondary school, we don't do that. We ask students to take a little bit of ownership for their resources, for their equipment, for their uniform, and we want all students to build those organisational skills that are going to help them in future life. It's also about building independence, because actually some of your children are going to have to get a bus for the first time on their own. Some of your children are going to have to walk from their house to here, and they've probably never done that before. And it's really, really important that we as a school aid you in getting your children ready to come to secondary school. I use the word, use the words young adults, because as they move to secondary school, your children now are young adults, and they need to be getting themselves ready to move on into adulthood and getting themselves ready to get those skills that are going to help them in further life. So it's really, really important that we get the organisational skills right and independence. We're going to help the students do it. We're not just going to expect it to happen overnight, because ultimately they are 12 years old as they come up in September. We're going to help them do it. We think communication is absolutely key, and communication is really going to help in terms of getting those 2 top things absolutely spot on. We want to communicate with you. We want you to communicate with us, but we also want to aid the conversations that you might have with your children. Again, as Sarah said, Mr. Davis said, we want you to support us. We will support you as much as we can. But it's really, really important that your children feel comfortable to tell us when they're struggling, that they feel comfortable to tell us when things aren't going right, because it is a massive change coming from primary school to secondary school. It's absolutely huge, and we want to be there to make it that little bit easier. In terms of uniform and equipment, gone are the days of your children wearing one jumper and having to look after that jumper as they go from primary school and then home. They're going to have a tie to wear, that's a clip-on tie, they're going to have a blazer to look after, they're going to have their PE kit, they're going to have their cooking ingredients, they're going to have all sorts of different things. So again, go back to the organisational part, we need to make sure that our students are prepared and ready. So the 2 transition days will aid that, because we'll ask them to hold on to things, we'll ask them to remember things. And actually, getting some of the students to bring a pen into school is probably something they've never even thought of, because they might be given a pen at school, they might even be given a pencil, they might not have ever wrote in a pen before, and that's something that we as a school have realised that we've got to adapt to. So we've got to help the students get to that point. We want to try and make the parents aware of things that we have seen, I've seen in my 10 years here, that are going to help your children move to their next stage, and that's to secondary school. I always get asked, how do the students know where they're going? So what I've done, I've put a timetable on the board. This is just a student's timetable that we've got at school. It looks daunting. It looks absolutely scary. Okay, there's 25 different lessons on there that your students are expected to go to. It's a big building. They're going to get lost, you're thinking in your head. But actually, we will go through, we'll spend some time on those transition days going through the timetable, going through what all of those numbers and letters mean. And I've tried to break it down a little bit now. I'm not expecting you to take it in, but I want you to know that we appreciate that your students, your children even, have never seen a timetable before. They sit in one lesson with their teacher, and then their teachers move around to them probably, if they have a different maths and English teacher, etc. But that is what the student is going to have when they start with us in September. We are going to expect them to know it. We're going to expect them to be organised and prepared to actually walk around the school and know their timetable. So we're going to help the students. As you've seen over in the library in the canteen, and I hope you spent some time and got loads of flyers and information, I wanted all of the subject leads here today so that you could ask them any questions, because actually you might need to brush your skills up in terms of some of the curriculum that the students are going to be learning, because they're going to be asking you questions about homework, they're going to be asking you about maths and English and technology and different things, and I want you to be as prepared as we are for when you get asked those questions. That's part of the reason we've done this evening tonight, is because actually July is too late to get all that information. So actually we want to try and give you as much information as we can early on so that you are prepared. You're prepared for the difficult questions that your children might ask you, just like we're prepared, because we've done transition for years and years. So please feel free to go and speak to those members of staff after this meeting. You're more than welcome to stay behind and have conversations with them, but actually get to know that information because you're going to need it. And we'll try and put as much information on the website as we possibly can. Again, talking about organisation, some really important dates for you. And again, I've tried to book them in advance so that I can tell you way in advance of the information that you're going to need and the dates you're going to need. A few important dates that you're going to remember. Wednesday the 3rd and Thursday the 4th of July, your children, people and students, your children are going to be coming to school for 2 days. It's going to be their first example, their first experience of what secondary school is like. I absolutely love those days when they stand out on the gate and they all come and they all arrive with their parents, they all take photos outside the Oldbury Academy sign. It's lovely to see. But we want your children to have a real idea of what it's like starting in September, because, believe it or not, the September date of when they start is going to come around really, really quickly. The next time we sit in this hall together with Mrs. Mewis, with myself and with the other senior leaders will be Thursday the 4th of July. That is a very, very important evening, probably more important than this evening, because you get to meet your form tutor. And again, it's about building those relationships up, because that form tutor should stay with your year group or with your child's form for the next 5 years. So it's really, really important that you attend that evening. The next day after that, summer school. I've had loads of questions about summer school tonight, and it will run on Monday the 22nd of July until Friday the 26th of July. The information is in your letter. Please feel free to read it. There is an application form you do need to fill out and bring back to us. Don't rush about it now. Go home, read it, digest it, but then feel free to send the information in. All of the information ideally are needed by the 4th of July. It just gives us a little bit of time to get everything sorted. And the summer school is fantastic because it gets your children into school a little bit a step ahead of someone else that might not have come to summer school. They get to see the school that's a little bit quieter, they get to know a little bit of lessons, learn some staff names, etc. And I think it's a really, really important process of our transition from primary to secondary. The dreaded date. The dreaded date of Wednesday the 4th of September 2019. It seems like it is an absolute age away. You've done your SATs, you've got 6 weeks coming up. It's going to be here before you know it. So we want to get you prepared for that. So we're giving you the date early on. Wednesday the 4th of September, 8:40, your children will be walking through those gates as Oldbury Academy students, dressed in their Oldbury Academy uniform, looking absolutely tip-top, ready to start their learning, ready to start their secondary education. Okay? We understand it's a daunting time and we're here to help and support you as parents with that as well as the students. But that date, please don't get booking any holidays early September. Please keep that date free because your children are expected to be in school on that date, ready to learn. And the final date for me is Wednesday the 25th of September. Again, give you enough notice. We want you to come in and ask about your children, ask about how your child is settling into school. Because I go back to the point about communication, it's really, really important that we as a school communicate with you. So that day there is where you get to come in, meet Mrs. Mewis, meet the Year 7 form tutor, and just get an overview of how your child has settled into school. We've gone through a lot of information today, and I don't apologise for that, because actually it's information you need to know. What I will say is we're here to help, we're here to answer any questions that you've got. The building is open until 7:30, 7:45. So if you want to ask us any questions, please feel free to stay and do so. Please feel free to walk through to the library in the canteen to go and ask those curriculum leads any questions. And I look forward to seeing and speaking to you again on the 3rd and 4th of July. Thank you very much.